You're now listening to the most dangerous sound. Hosted by Lee Alexander the Great. You've heard the verse, but this is the hook.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's your boy Lee Alexander the Great. Welcome to another episode of This is the Hook. I am your captain on this ship. How you guys been doing? I have been doing fine, if you were asking. Just in the middle of a couple of small pieces of transition, but they are going smoothly. I've seemed to notice lately that, or I'm noticing in my age, which I'm 41 years old, so I'm starting to notice so late in the game that preparation is like everything. Like no matter what you're doing, if it's a business move or if it's just moving out of your current home into another one, preparation is so key because it makes things just go so much smoother. You know, especially when you have time to just really look at things and just take things step by step. You know, like you want to get the boxes, and I'm just talking about moving. You get the boxes organized months beforehand, and you start slowly but surely boxing things up, putting things where they're supposed to be, getting the amount of boxes that you need, having time to do all the things you need to do as you're moving forward. It just feels a lot better to have that foresight to know that there are things that are going to have to be done and they can't be done last minute. And it gives a certain amount of peace when you're going through that process. So I'm just happy with growth, I guess, ultimately. But I have no segue to go into what we're going to talk about. But the first thing I wanted to hit on was basically there was another mass shooting, or another school shooting, I guess is what we call them. Another mass shooting in a school. Now, this was in Nashville, and I know that everyone's heard about this. This isn't new news. This isn't something that just happened a couple minutes ago. And if that's what you're looking for, brand new news, this ain't the place. Because I'm not coming on every day and just hitting this stuff. This is stuff I'm hearing, and then this is my opportunity to talk about it. Therapeutic, so to speak. But I have questions about these type of situations that happen, and there have been a lot of conversations about it because governments are talking about it, and they're trying to find a way to make schools safer, and they're trying to find a way to have a bit of foresight into what might happen how these people are coming to the situation. And this wasn't like normal. Normally, it would be a student of that school going into that school and shooting up that school. In this particular instance, the individual was 28 years old. So she was way out of elementary school, which is what this was, an elementary school. And she came back into that school after spending, I don't know how many years out of that school, and went back to that school to kill a total of 6 people. And my ultimate question is always, where is this money coming from? I mean, she had, I think, a total of about 7 guns, not in particular on her. She had 3 on her. She had a 2 or 3 on her at that particular time. And it's like, there should, it's hard. Look, how about this? Before I get into the complicated conversations that are going on around gun control and around gun safety and around the safety of our children when they're in schools, let me just let you hear the actual news clip of the situation, and then we'll come back and we will talk about it at the front page news.
This is vital. Ain't getting nowhere else. It's what's going on.
With me, Alexander the Great.
Holla at me. Content is key.
Tonight, new video out of Nashville, Tennessee, showing someone shooting their way into a private school, walking the halls, weapon in hand. Moments later, 3 9-year-old students and 3 adults were killed on campus.
And in this dark hour, let us support each other. Let us go and hug our children a little bit closer tonight.
The Nashville community holding each other tight, mourning the loss of 6 victims. Good evening, I'm Mike Meeback.
And I'm Julie Hayner. Police shot and killed the shooter on campus. It happened at a private Presbyterian school. KTVU's Alyssa Harrington joins us now with the message from Nashville officials. Alyssa.
Well, Nashville police call this a planned and calculated attack. They say the suspect shot kids and adults and also fired at officers out a window, striking police cars in the parking lot. They released video of the moment the shooter arrived at the school. This video may be disturbing to some of our viewers.
In chilling surveillance video released by the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department, someone fires multiple rounds through a glass door at the Covenant School in Nashville, gaining entry into this private Christian elementary school. The shooter is seen heavily armed with 2 assault-style guns and a 9mm pistol. The person enters the church office and is seen on video walking past the children's ministry, then down a long hallway. The shooter would go on to kill 3 9-year-old students and 3 adults.
When we send our kids to school or to any place of safety, we expect them to live, learn, have fun, and come back from that day's experience. We don't anticipate things like this.
So there's the gist of it. I didn't go too far into a lot of the communication that went on during it or afterwards. There were some things that we were able to learn from that in general. I believe that the police department itself in that particular area did a great job of getting in the building, locating the girl that was shooting, and eliminating her. I think it was Texas that I actually saw a school shooting in, and I think everybody know about that one. It was causing me anxiety with the time that they were taking to allow that person to try to secure where they were going to go. It was a lot of confusion going on. In this particular instance, they got in there, they hurried up. It was about 3 of them, I think 3 or 4 initially. They went into the building, they searched the rooms, they heard a shot, found out where she was, and killed her, and that was it. She shot a couple shots at them, but it was still too late. And I think that's where the communication, or not the communication, but I think that's where the conversation is starting at, because even if you move at lightning speed, once you hear that there's a shooting, there's still an area of finding a way to prevent these type of things. Now, prior to the situation, it was said by the parents that they had taken steps to remove a gun from her because of their thoughts about what she was capable of doing, or what they thought she may do. Not necessarily a school shooting, but they didn't think she was mentally capable of having a weapon without harming herself or someone else. So I think this is the area that we need to talk or start the conversation at. We need to start the conversation at the communication of the people that are around this individual the most, the people that can say, hey, this person might be capable of doing something like that. And we need to find better ways to get the type of mental support that people need initially. And just the same way you put a person on a flight risk, or you put a person in a no-fly list because of the possibilities of the things that they might do, there should be a list of people who are not mentally stable enough to own or buy a firearm. the whole concept was they spent so much time trying to make sure that felons didn't get guns. They never thought about the fact that the people that get guns aren't mentally stable enough to have guns. And there should be the conversation should dwell in that area first, because that's preemptive. That's making sure that these type of things don't happen as often, because now you're checking a person before they get a chance to get an opportunity to grab a gun or to grab a knife and to go into a school and to do something like that. And we can talk about gun reform. We can talk about finding ways of limiting the amount of guns a person can have or what type of guns a person can have, but that's after the fact. The fact of the matter, the truth of the matter in this situation and in most situations that we dealt with before is that there is an issue before the problem happens. There is a mental issue with a person and they don't get checked. They don't get the type of help they need, and then they're able to progress to the point of wanting to hurt someone else. And because in this country we do not focus enough on mental health, we don't focus enough to make sure we are allowing people to be mentally unstable and saying, well, we should treat them like everyone else. We shouldn't take this person and put them somewhere and get them the help they need until they've done something to harm. When they do something to harm themselves, or when they do something to harm someone else, then we look at the factors. And we say, well, we knew this person was on this drug because they had mental stability, they had schizophrenia, or they had some type of mental illness, or they were on some type of spectrum. We knew that. But because they hadn't done anything, we couldn't do anything. And that's where we're failing. I believe that's where we're failing. Because every single one of these individuals who stepped in, if you've got to be mentally, you have to be mentally unstable to go into a place with children you don't know and shoot at them. Or adults that you don't know and shoot at them. If you go into a place with a gun and you are just looking for anybody to shoot, there is something with the intent, with the knowledge. And let's talk about her knowledge. She was coherent enough to buy the guns. How did she buy the guns? She probably had a job or had some type of form of income. She was able to go through the process of getting legally acquired weapons. And she knew when she was going into that place that she was not coming out of that place. So she was coherent enough to understand that fact. She knew she wasn't going to come out. And I say that, oh my goodness gracious. I say that because she went in, she had a text message that she sent to a friend of hers stating that she was going to die. And her friend would probably hear about it on the news. And, she was feeling like she just didn't want to be here anymore. And it wasn't a joke. And she was serious about it. And that was pretty much it. So the idea is this. We put ourselves in a position to say that we want to have conversations, which is what we should be doing. We should be talking about solutions to this problem. But I don't believe it starts with the guns. It definitely doesn't start. You don't start with the security. You start with the prevention, and the prevention is not the security. It's not having an armed guard. It's not at the schools, which isn't a bad idea. It's not having retired police officers coming to the schools, every school, 3 or 4 of them in the building. No, it's our mental stability. That has to be organized. It's not going to be the teachers with guns and them being willing to shoot, because ain't no telling whether they had a bad day and now they want to shoot somebody or feel like they're threatened. If the police will do it, I know good and well a teacher would do it underpaid, and you got to carry your weapon to school, and children like they ain't got no sense, and you got to go. I mean, a bad day could be a bad day for certain people, but I'm saying the truth of the matter is these type of circumstances should not be handled on this particular level. Now, as I said that, do remember, and I will let you guys hear another statement that was made by a senator concerning the idea of gun control and what we should be doing about it inside of this country. And there was a lot of backlash about his statement because the idea is that people are looking for answers, and at this point I'm seeing a lot of shoulder shrugs, a lot of thoughts and prayers. And when we're asking for something, even when it pertains to something like gun control, there has to be a specific concept about it. There can't be just a general thought about what we think we need, or to ask a question like, what are we going to do about gun control? And then expect somebody to have an answer to a general question like that. It's too many defining factors. It's too many people that are pro-gun. There are too many people that are anti-gun. You can't meet in the middle in that conversation. But I will let you hear this clip, and then we'll talk about it a little more.
Do you think that there should be action here in the wake of that shooting?
I put myself in a position where I look at those families and I see these things, and I look at my colleagues up here, and there isn't anybody here that, if they could find the right approach, wouldn't try to do something because they feel that pain.
Republican Senator Mike Rounds is about to get real frank with the American people over how worthless Congress is in accomplishing anything that improves their lives or keeps their children safe.
And yet, when we start talking about bans or challenging on the Second Amendment, I think the things that have already been done have gone about as far as we're going to with gun control.
As far as they're willing to go with gun control, meaning we're not going to do anything. Even after 3 children as young as 9 years old were gunned down by a mass shooter recently.
So what I'm hearing him say, and I'm not taking his side, I'm just stating what I'm hearing, and I'm adding on to what I heard. I'm adding what I heard with what I just spoke about. They're at a ceiling right now. I believe they're at a ceiling. They're at a shoulder shrug, like, I don't know what to do about this. I mean, it's very difficult because I don't believe that they have had time, but their focus was on, remember, get the guns out of the hands of the criminals. Don't allow criminals to get guns. Make sure that we have laws passed, and strict laws that will make sure that we put these people in jail if they're caught with a weapon. And there was so much focus on the reformed or the corrected criminal that we never checked the mental health or the mental pulse of America. And when we missed the mental pulse and we never looked at the trend that was happening inside of the individuals that were doing these type of things, we never looked at those. We saw them. There's always a manifesto. There's always signs when you look deeper. Well, there are other people on the end of these conversations. Now, in this particular situation, the friend actually went and started looking at options for, and actually speaking to people on suicide hotlines and trying to find out what was going on. By the time she figured out that what she was hearing on the news was related to her friend, it was too late. Which brings me back to the parents. Now, at this particular point, you have to understand that this woman was 28 years old. She was not some troubled teen that was going through a phase in her life. She was an adult, almost 30 years old. At this particular point, she had either been thinking about this for a long time, and she had to be thinking about this for a long time. She had this on her mind. It was something that she wanted to do. But this is also what happens when there's a lapse in community. I'll throw that in there. Because when there's a lapse in community, when people aren't talking to people, when no one knows anybody, when grandma don't know the grandson's friends and they don't know what's going on around them, it's very hard to put your finger on the type of things that we naturally know, the things that we can see. You can tell when somebody's off. You can tell when somebody's a tad bit off, like, hey, that person may need help. And the signs are normally there. But you have to be willing to see those signs. You have to actually care. And most people don't care until it's too late. So, I'm not gonna keep pressing that point, but I believe this is one of those instances where we can't have the same conversation that we had the last shooting. You take the gun out of the situation. You take the laws around guns out of the conversation and leave in how can we spot when someone has a mental issue, when someone needs to be like, hey, that person has got problems. Somebody needs to look at this person. Why is it so expensive to talk to a psychologist or someone who can deal with your mental issues? Why is it so complicated? Why do you have to have insurance? If the mental stability of the country was actually in the forefront of the minds of the individuals that make the laws, we would be changing the way that we deal with these situations. It wouldn't be a money grab every time you had to take somebody or give somebody medicine or take someone to the hospital to make sure that they were mentally capable of being inside of society. We wouldn't be doing that because it would be in the forefront of our minds. The same way that we're willing to throw away all caution and hand money to banks when they've made mistakes or lost a lot of money, and we'll bail them out, we should be putting that same type of energy into making sure that people are okay. Because this is the beginning of complete destruction. It is because when the people fail to even recognize what's around them, when everybody's head is in the sand and everybody's full self and everybody's trying to get the bag, the structure of the community fails. But what makes up the country? The communities. And because no one's trying to make their community better, because everybody's got to go and get somewhere better, because the situation that they're in there a lot of people throw up. The government is not the first person to throw up their hands inside of a situation and say, I don't know what to do about that. We do that every day. I'm guilty of it too. You look around you, you see a lot of crazy stuff going on in your environment. You're like, I just can't be here. This ain't safe for my people. Then you got to throw your hands up and say, I don't know what to do about it. I don't know how to fix this issue because it's hard to look when you're struggling to survive. You can't look around. You can't notice anything if that they've made this industrial type situation inside of America where everybody's just trying to survive. We can't look up to see what's going on because we don't have an opportunity to. We're too busy trying to survive. We're too busy trying to keep our little patch of land or keep our children okay. And then we don't have time to look out. I'll give you a prime example. You look at all these situations where they got this whole thing, this Karen thing, and you see in this particular instance, these white women, they pop out, they just go crazy, and then someone's recording them like, what is wrong? And first thing you say is, what is wrong with her? This is an adult, and she's screaming and she's yelling. I just seen one day, she called him over to fix something in her house, and because he was a black male, she called the cops, said that she didn't think that he was capable of doing the job, and she's on the phone like, oh, I don't feel safe, and she starts crying. That's an unstable person. That person needs that. Any person that could jump in a situation and not have a threat, actually call somebody and then go crazy on the phone just to get somebody to respond to her, there's something wrong. Think about it. How often do you, if you believe yourself to be a normal person, how often you go outside and just go crazy on somebody? Or go ballistic in a restaurant? Like who does that? That is a sign of mental instability. Seriously. Seriously. We need mental health reform. That's what we need in this country. You don't believe that we need mental health reform? Well, that's fine. What I'll do is give you an example of why we need mental health reform in this country. And I will do that right after you hear this intro for why you do that.
Have you heard of any trank being in the dope in New York City?
Absolutely, yeah.
We met Ryan R. and some friends outside the safe injection site on East 126th Street in East Harlem. Do you know if you've ever had the trank in your heroin?
Yes, I have. The trank puts you straight to sleep. It's nothing like heroin, and it destroys your body.
After Pix 11 News made our eye-opening trip to Philadelphia, where many fentanyl users are also hooked on the animal tranquilizer xylazine, known as Trank, falling over on sidewalks and developing flesh-eating sores.
I never heard of Trank or anything, man, until I came here.
Our next step was finding out if xylazine has made its way to New York City.
I started to notice that xylazine was mentioned in overdose deaths. 80% of them had fentanyl, and 20% had xylazine, which is a significant number. One of the most alarming trends that I've seen is this mixture of cocaine, fentanyl, and xylazine.
The Food and Drug Administration approved xylazine for use as an animal sedative more than 50 years ago. Last November, the same agency issued a warning about xylazine causing limb-threatening wounds in humans.
It's the drug itself which is causing necrosis. It's causing the skin to die.
Ryan R. told us he gets his opioids tested at the safe injection site.
Every time I find dope that has horse tranquilizer in it, I tell everybody around and don't use that and tell people not to buy that stuff. They get addicted to that and then they can't stop because that's the only thing that'll give them a high. And then you wake up and then you're dope sick.
We're on Wallace Avenue in the Bronx. The special narcotics prosecutor told us that after 100 people overdosed in a single weekend in Berks County, Pennsylvania, on a mixture of fentanyl and xylazine, the source of the bad batch was traced back to a drug mill that was located inside this nice apartment building and to two other locations in the Bronx. Look at the thousands of $5 glassines of death stashed into this cardboard box. They were stamped with the name Zone 7. In another case, a kilo of heroin, fentanyl, and xylazine mixed together was found under children's bunk beds in Fordham Manor, stamped with a biohazard logo. Many are comparing trank users to the so-called K2 zombies we reported on in 2015 and 2016.
We have a epileptic seizure going on.
In the case of trank, it suppresses breathing just like fentanyl. But if you're in a location that has Narcan, the life-saving medicine won't work against a sedative.
The xylazine isn't going to be responsive to the Narcan.
And the Drug Enforcement Administration is seeking to list xylazine as a controlled substance. The agency made the request 15 months ago to the Department of Health and Human Services, but nothing has changed yet.
So explain this to me. There are drug users. Now, these drug users, they use drugs for the high. At what point do you say, I don't need my arm, or I don't need my leg? Now, you can do your own research. Look it up and just see what's going on. Because I looked at the videos, and even this video that I gave you the audio of, there was a guy talking to her, and when I say his whole forearm was completely missing almost to the bone, it was flesh eating. And they try to, and they were talking about the smell of it. It's rotting flesh on your body. And they're addicted to this drug, xylazine, and they are dying. And I'm not just talking about, it's flesh eating, but there are people dropping dead after using that. That's xylazine and fentanyl. Now, fentanyl, we've already had a problem with. Now you're adding a horse tranquilizer to it, and it's messing people up. Some people have addictive personalities. Some people, if they get addicted to something, they are in it. And some people use drugs to escape the realities, but those are all things that need to be talked about. Those are all things that people have to have someone to talk to about. These are all things that people have to have someone to talk to about. I don't know if that sentence makes sense. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this. This is another example of attempting to try to deal with the problem after the fact. People start dying. People are losing limbs. People are getting them. Their bodies are being disfigured, and then you say, "Hey, we want to change this drug to another level by name on paper so that it can't be used or people can't access it, so that they won't make a mistake and kill themselves." I say, deal with the issue before it happens. And the only way to do that is that, unfortunately, you do have to have, and the drugs are a strange thing in the sense that people will initially function, a normally functioning person, maybe not even with a mental illness, will go into drugs and end up in a very bad position. So I'm not comparing this to the idea of a person who has a mental problem or a mental issue grabbing a gun and shooting people. It's not the same thing. But I still believe that touching the minds of these people and getting in tune with what they're dealing with, putting them in positions to where they can avoid getting that far, would help a lot more than just changing the scheduling of a drug. But that's just my thought. But I don't, at this point, like I said, I don't use drugs, so I don't know what they're going through exactly. And I'm sure that there's a lot that they're dealing with, a lot more than just they're taking drugs. And it's got to be something big. It's got to be something very addictive and involved in it for a person to see the reality of what's happening around them and not be willing to deal with it. And on a side note, if heroin addicts are telling you, "No, I don't even mess with that," then that's something different. That's saying a lot, because heroin is not good at all. But these new drugs that they're bringing out and these are the illegal drugs, and there are drugs that are completely legal that are just as bad. But that's another area, and I'm not gonna touch on it. But I will say this much: there needs to be some definite mental reform inside of the country. It's especially with cases like this and the case that we talked about before, because when you put people in a position to where they have immediate help, where they don't have to worry about how much money they got in their pockets so they can get the right type of help, when there's an abundance of people who are looking at these situations or are being prepared for these situations, meaning that there are more people inside of healthcare that are capable of dealing with this, you'll find that there will be more people coming to get help. But it has to start with people knowing that there are options, and they can't be underfunded. They need to be funded more than the stadiums where people go and watch football games are funded. It needs to be funded more than the police. Like, there are places, the schools, the areas of mental health that need to be dealt with. that need to be in the communities. These places need to have much more funding. And if we're going to throw money at something, if we're going to throw money in an area, we need to throw it in these areas. And I'm not talking about the passing money to some charity. I'm talking about actually giving people incentives for being the type of people that get the education they need to deal with the issues and to seek out these issues before they even come to the point that someone's getting shot or someone's going to die. And I think that that's where we should be at. So, with that being said, I don't know. I don't know why a person would do that. I really don't. But I will say this much. I wish the best for him, and I hope that in some form or fashion or in some way we can find a better way to deal with what we're dealing with in this country. And I think that's the biggest thing I can think of. What is up with gyms today? I'm sorry, I've got to get this off my chest for real, because for some strange reason, like I go to the gym 5 times a week. I've dedicated myself to structuring my body to be the way that I wanted it to be. I took a 3-year break during the pandemic and a little bit afterwards, so I gained a couple pounds. But so I'm going to the gym. I'm entering a different type of environment, and I'm noticing that that in the gyms there are a lot of people. They're in there with their cell phones, and everybody got their cell phone normally. But, you know, they're setting their cell phones up and they're doing their reps. And, you know, I'm noticing that, like, people are getting frustrated when you're, like, doing your normal thing because you're in the way of their shot. Or they'll set up cameras to where the camera will be watching them but also be watching the whole gym. So while you're going around doing your regular thing, like me, I'm a headset hoodie type dude in the gym. I don't like talking to people. It's not that I don't like talking to people, but I don't go in there to socialize. I go in there to do the amount of time I'm going to do, get my exercise done, and get out. That's pretty much it. I'm saying all this because last time I was in the gym, and this wasn't a big issue, but I noticed that I was on the ground and I had my weight and I was doing crunches. So I'm doing my crunches, I'm burning my stomach out and just you know, doing my workout. And there were 2 ladies, and they were on the other side of the gym in a small area, and they came to my side of the gym. And now I was only doing 5 sets, so I was actually on my 4th set when they started walking over. Then they came over, and then when they came over with their phone and they got everything set up or whatever, or they were in the process of setting everything up, and then they were doing they were lifting, you know, flipping the tire. So they had this little, let's say it was it wasn't a whole tire, but it was like if you ever been to the gym, you know, they have the ones that you can just flip, and then you know, you go on the other side of it and you flip it the other way. So it's kind of like flipping a tire, except for you're only flipping half a tire. But it was like there was not a lot of room between where they were and where I was. I only had 1 set, and these women were like, I do my 5th set, I jump up, I move off, because I've seen the videos, I've seen how they act, and I've seen the way these girls do. They will come right in front of you and be bending down right in front of you and doing all these weird exercises. And yeah, I'm a man, but I don't want to be called some type of creep because somebody is 3 feet from me, you know what I mean, bending down, and when I get done with my set, I'm looking straight. I'm not about to turn my head in some awkward position because you're right in front of me. I would assume that you would either wait till my set was done to start yours, or vice versa, or something. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, stop bringing them phones in the gym. And stop trying to treat people like they creeps because you came into an area with barely any clothes on, doing weird workouts, just so the people online can see you working out. They spend more time trying to set up their cameras than they actually do work out. It's like they will spend 30 minutes trying to get the right position. And I understand people who are trying to motivate people, but I believe that you should probably be doing that in your own space. If you want to motivate somebody, you know, find a time when ain't nobody there. Do something, but just don't bring that in that area. I wish people would stop that. I really do. But it ain't my problem to deal with. I'm just saying it's making it awkward. You know, it's just making the whole thing awkward. And I believe that if women want to have, it pertains to women and men inside of the gym, I believe that if women want to do those type of things and they don't want to feel like people are looking at them, it's probably best that you find an all-female gym. Just do that. And then you won't have to worry about guys looking at you. You have to figure out whether the girl was looking at you because she wanted to know what you was doing so she could do it, or she was looking at you because she liked you. Then that's all you gotta do with is women. I think that's probably best. But it just messes everything up. But that don't mean I ain't going tomorrow morning, so whatever. And I don't personally care. I know I'm not in there to stare at women, and I'm definitely not in there to look like a creep, but I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing because you got a camera and you want your space in my space. It should be illegal. They should really stop that. Like the way they say no smoking in the gym, they should say no cell phone, no cell phone camera usage. Like you can't videotape yourself in a public place without signing paper, having everybody to come in sign paperwork, because you put them on a public platform that they never asked to be on. Rather they looked like they was staring at you and they was a creep or something like that. They should not be subjected to being filmed when they're in their process because you want people to see you going through yours. Didn't nobody sign up for that. When people sign up for going to gyms, there is nothing in the contract that says, hey, you might get filmed by some random person while they're doing something for TikTok or Instagram. That's just craziness. You shouldn't have to do that. I'll call that a bit of a rant, but it's just because it's peaceful working out. When you go to work out and you just get in your zone. I have my 50 Cent on, listen to 50 Cent, Lil Wayne. I like to listen to you know what I'm saying? I like listening to them. So I have my music on. I'm you know what I mean, grooving a little bit, hitting my sets, feeling the burn, getting ready to get, you know what I mean, get my stuff done and get on out of there. And I want to enjoy that time. I should feel happy about me going to the gym because I'm doing something positive for myself. And I shouldn't have to worry about somebody looking at me to see if I'm looking at them. And I shouldn't be recorded if I don't want to be recorded while I'm in the process of trying to get my body where I'm supposed to be at. So that's what I'm saying. So if you know somebody that knows somebody that's doing some shit like that, please tell them to stop. Please tell them to stop. And I think that a lot of people are trying to come out and let them know that that's just not cool, man. Just like leave that alone. Go out in the woods or the wilderness. Do some exercises out there and just be you. And you can talk you can talk to people, you can show them what you're doing, and it's great for you, but it's not something everybody else want to deal with, is all I'm saying. But anyway, let's move right along and get into this next segment, the relationship. All right.
This ship built on relationship. The relationship.
In my opinion, your major competition is not white women. It's Hispanic women.
Oh, yes.
That's your
yes,
major competition. Black men are not putting up with this stuff anymore. And it's not because black men hate you, dislike you. Black men are tired. Black men are always expected to step out in front, take the slings and arrows and the bullets, such and so forth. And all they want is a place to lay their head and hear you say, baby, I love you. It's going to be all right. I got you. But black men, when they deal with black women, can't even get a motherfucking moment of peace. Matter of fact, black women are so proud of this shit. Monique made a comedy bit about it. He said Becky will have an argument with her man at night, but in the morning she'll be like, hey buddy, love you, here's your eggs and such and so forth. Give him a little blowjob because she know he got to get out there and compete. No, but a black woman wake her ass up early in the morning, takes 3 shots of Red Bull, 2 cups of coffee to talk shit to you all the way until you get in your car, call you on the way there, and be bothering you while you're in your office, fucking with you.
Shit, see a little white couple have an argument in the morning time. She gonna cut that shit short because she don't want to fuck with him. He gotta go make that paper. She's gonna say, hey, all that shit I said, sorry, and I love you. And have a wonderful day at work. And I'll call you. It's wonderful. Not our black ass. We don't give a fuck about having no argument in the morning time. You gotta go make that motherfucking paper. We gonna say our shit. Then your black ass try to walk out the door like you done ended the motherfucking argument. Oh no, nigga, it ain't over. I'm coming to your motherfucking job. Can I pick the James, please?
How many black men have pulled up? I have done this thing. Pulled up to your house where you pay the goddamn bills, where you're the cost to be the boss. You're paying for everything, for her, even her kid. And you got black men who sit in the driveway in their own house crying because they know what they're about to go into. And if they love that woman enough to fucking sit there and stay, and they can't get a bit of cooperation, submission, just act right.
So that was the late, great Kevin Samuels speaking about submission, talking about the difference. And I think there's been a lot of communication about this more recently. And it seems like there's a large amount of it. And I believe that there is a large amount of it because of the awareness or the necessity of men to be able to communicate their thoughts, communicate their actual emotions, to communicate what their intention is inside of relationships. I'm talking about working relationships. I'm not really talking about the relationships where, or not even the relationship. I'm not talking about the Netflix and chills. I'm not talking about the fly by night type thing. I'm talking about actual relationships. And the thing about that perspective that he's given is that, and I believe that even when you're dealing with men or women, that there is a general way about women, just like there's a general way about men in a lot of senses. But culture, or the culture that a person lives in, can change the way that they act or the way that they respond based on how they've been raised, the environment that they're in, what is looked upon as positive or negative by the individuals they were raised by, for the most part. So I said that, like, basically, and I think I've used this example before, but a majority of my family are Muslims, and if I just took the concept of modesty and put it inside of this area, I would say that there is a certain piece about a man dealing with a woman who dressed modestly because he believes that what she is for him. Now you have the so-called progressive individuals who say, my woman should be able to wear whatever she wants if it makes her feel good. And so in a lot of instances, it's not necessarily that a person is insecure or possessive when they require certain things out of the woman that they're choosing. It's that it's a sign of respect towards your relationship. I mean, I think that's a big thing. Other signs of respect, going back to what he's talking about, is the concept of making sure that your home is peaceful, and that when either man or female, comes into their home, they have peace at their home, because that's where it's supposed to be home base. And the conversations are happening more because men are getting to tell their sides of the story. So it seems like it's a bombardment, but it's really not. It's not like these conversations weren't happening. They just weren't as amplified. And so I think it is time for these things to happen, because I think that through the communication, not only of women and their thoughts and their side of the story, when men are allowed to have their side of the story, to say, hey, oh, you do know I'm doing everything I can right now, and you do know that you are my peace, and this is where my peace is supposed to be. And the idea of constantly arguing shouldn't be in our vernacular. It shouldn't be something that we are, this is our relationship. It shouldn't be that. The more we talk about it, the closer we're getting back to a point that we start to build our communities through our relationships, the stability inside of our relationships. When I'm talking about in our society in general, when we get to a point to where both parties can have an opportunity to say, hey, you know, I don't like that. Now, if it's not for you, it just ain't for you. Some people will say, hey, I don't want to be with him. He won't let me be like this. Or a man might say, I can't be with her. She won't allow me to be like this. These are decisions we make. But to suppress a person's emotion or their feelings or their thoughts and allow another one to completely express themselves and say that if this other person does that, then that makes them feminine, it doesn't work, and it never will. So you do have men going into other cultures, black men going into other cultures, and they're going into these cultures with the hope that they might find their peace there. Because if everything you do ain't enough in one area, and another area, a person will look at you with respect and love, then it's an easy choice. And I don't think like you said, I don't think that black men hate black women. I believe that there have been some deceptions given to black women, and it's put them in a position to where they have to fight off that misconception. They have to fight that off. And the only way to fight it off is to face the reality. So there has to be a certain amount of, another thing you hear a lot is, you know, taking responsibility and accountability inside of these type of environments. When it comes down to relationships, people talking about taking responsibility and being accountable for your actions and being accountable for the way that things are. So when you see things are wrong, or you see things aren't happening the way you want to, or you see that you don't, like I see these women talking about, well, where are all the good men? I believe there are good men everywhere. They're just not $1 million men. And, you know, in other cultures, there ain't a whole bunch of $1 million men running around, but there ain't a whole bunch of single women either. They talk about when you're looking for a relationship, you're looking for somebody to grow with. You're looking for somebody to build with. You're looking for somebody that wants the same type of things that you want. But some of the things that I'm hearing that women want are they're outrageous. It's just outrageous. And there's no way that you, if you make that bubble so small that you can't see a person for who they are or how good your relationship would be based on preconceived like standards that you set, all the while not preparing yourself to be the type of woman that person would want you to be, you're not going to win that way. So I have to preach at anybody, but I do believe that this should be a lesson for everyone. This should be an opportunity for everybody to just look at what you got, if you got somebody, and appreciate what that person is. If you look at them and the only thing you see is what you don't got, then you probably missing out on what you actually have. And you might not even deserve who you got. If you spend a lot of time looking at other people and comparing those people to who you got and saying, well, they're not that person, then you're looking at the wrong things. And how can that person ever be somebody else? There's no way. And money won't do it. Giant houses won't do it. Cars won't do it. It'll make you feel comfortable. You'll be able to show off to some other people, but that don't make you happy. And it's not fulfilling. Because when you get old, when you stop being able to drive and the dresses that you thought was the flyest ain't even fly no more because they out of season, and you go to that hospital, you might be able to take that bag with you, but it won't comfort you. The purse won't comfort you. The money might make you comfortable, but ain't nothing better than going somewhere, going to a hospital, being sick, or having something wrong with you and having somebody actually standing next to you because they care about you for real. And they really just want to be there for you. There ain't nothing like that. So I would check your priorities. Everybody should. Everybody should. Men should, women should. We should really check our priorities because we should be trying to build, but we should be trying to build community. We should be trying to build, financially, but finances ain't the only thing. Finances can't be the only thing, because if finance was the only thing, there wouldn't be larger populations of married people throughout the earth, everywhere but here. So there must be something wrong with our perspective. It's skewed. You prioritize the concept of living your life with somebody, and I think that's what God wanted us. That's why He put marriage in a situation, because He wanted us to have the opportunity to see what it felt like to actually live out our lives with somebody, and learn what it meant to be committed to something. And stop saying that bull crap. I swear, I just really despise the idea of people running around and floss, acting like it's a floss to tell people about how you like, oh, I was married for this amount of time, and I was married to this person for this many years, and now we ain't together, and you're treating it like a badge of honor. It's not a badge of honor. There's nothing. In what other area can you fail at something and then treat it like it was the best thing ever? I'm done with that. It's not natural to want to fail, or after you fail, to walk around like it's an achievement. There are certain type of people who are in abusive relationships. I'm talking about actual abuse, not somebody telling you that, yo, stop shaking your ass on the internet. That's not abuse. That's something that's a requirement that a person is giving you, and it's not abusive. It's just what they want you to do. You have a choice to do or to not to, but don't belittle actual abuse because somebody told you something you didn't want to hear. That's not the same thing. And just stop it. Just stop with that concept. Stop running around and acting like your failure is some type of accomplishment. You didn't win if you said till death do you part and both of y'all is still living. I would never believe that I won in a relationship just because I can say I was in one for a long period of time. I really wouldn't. I couldn't see that because it was a loss. That means I spent years with a person and I couldn't figure out one way to make that work. And then I want to go around and hope somebody else is willing. If a job see that you've been in a place for a certain amount of time and it was a short amount of time, they'd always ask you like, well, what happened? Why are you looking for a job now? They assess your reason for leaving. Whether it was valid, did you separate from them? Did they separate from you? Like, they want to know those type of things. And I think that when you're going into a new relationship, you might want to consider those type of concepts. Consider those thought processes. Have those conversations. Like, why did you leave? Any person that can go through a relationship, be with a relationship with somebody and walk out of a relationship and be like, oh, it was them. Well, how many relationships you have? Well, I've been in a couple relationships. This person says they've been in a couple relationships. You've been in 6 relationships, and of every relationship that you've been in, you can always say that what they did and how they did you wrong. And women love to go to the cheating because it's a we don't have to assess any further. You know what I'm saying? It's the loaded gun that you can use. Never questioning how it got to that point. Never questioning why a person or what type of situation was that person in to end up doing something like that. You never question that. You can just say they cheated and then you had to move on. Then you look like the broken victim when in actuality there were some things that you didn't do or some things or some situations you put that person in and they ended up responding with something that you didn't like. But the only thing you took out of it was that you was capable of telling the next person that they cheated on you, so you did this. I'm just saying accountability. That's all I'm saying. And if you dated 9 men and you broke up with 9 men for cheating, at some point in time, you might want to ask yourself, why do people keep cheating on me? What am I not doing that will make a man commit to me, stay with me, and then go somewhere else? Just a thought. But I digress. I will say this. I think it's time for us to get into the moment of Zen. And if you're with me, let's get it in. I'm trying to rhyme. All right. So, in this moment of Zen, I want to talk about something I heard that stuck with me. It was the concept of the bow. And what I noticed was that when a bow is connected with an arrow, and the bow is stretched out, the arrow has a tendency to move backwards and forward in order for it to be propelled forward. So, with this moment of Zen, I will tell you this. Never be afraid of having to go backwards in order to go forward, because the tension that it takes for you to deal with whatever you're dealing with will be the strength you need to propel you into the future. We are all progressing. Life is a spiral to me. I believe that life is a constant circle, but upward. Some of us are stuck in a circle. But when you live in a spiral, you revisit certain things in your life, and as you progress, you react, you respond, you deal with things differently. So I think that if we will all consider who we are now, be thankful for who you are, be thankful for what you were, and be optimistic about what you will be, I think that life will go a lot better for people. And I think that it's just the thing, whatever it is that you're dealing with, it's just the thing to give you the strength to move forward. Sometimes you need that. You need that time away. You need that strain. You need that pull, that stretch, because that stretch will guarantee give you the strength that you need to move forward in life. And I'm not saying that some things couldn't be avoided, but you'll know the difference. You'll know the difference between something that's trying to make you stronger and something that's trying to stop you from being capable of living to your potential or living up to your potential. So, with that being said, I want you to remember that no matter what you're going through and where you are in life, just remember, I love you. Hey, everybody, it's your boy Lee Alexander the Great. And I hope you enjoyed yourself. I did too. But just wanted to stop by to let you know, don't forget to go to thehookpc@gmail.com. That is thehookpc@gmail.com to send in those emails and send in those questions and those comments and concerns. If you have something that you want to speak about from today, I'll backtrack a little bit just to make sure we get it all in together now. So until then, again, I say be great and I love you.